We're live. Awesome. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Kat. How are you tonight?
I am good, but before you do anything, we all have to wish you happy birthday.
Oh,
Everyone sing along. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday
thank
to
you
you.
very much.
Happy
It
birthday, dear
was
Michael.
yesterday. It was
Yes,
yesterday.
I know, but it's your 40th, so like
It
we can
was
just
not my 40th. It was my, as you eloquently put on the post last night, it was my announcement of becoming non-age statement.
non-age statements. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, no more years are added. I saw a great post from Dean Jode, Murray McDavid, actually, on on Instagram. And it was pretty cool it was saying about how people are hung up on age. But we shouldn't matter about age because age is probably the least interesting thing about a whiskey.
Yeah.
It should be cask, it should be distillery character, it should be peat or whatever. The age, everyone gets hung up on it, but really it should be the last part you look at. And also touch on maybe having young, middle-aged, and old is just like three broad statements that we should have instead of an age, which I thought was pretty cool. But I'm
That's all
hurtling
relative
towards that
though.
old section rather than the middle age.
I was gonna say that's all relative. Like how do you define what middle age is as opposed to old?
Yeah, exactly. So thank
Well,
you,
happy
Ian.
birthday.
Ian's watching on YouTube saying happy birthday as well. Guys, please do not flood the messages with happy birthday
Do
messages.
it.
Just in case we miss some questions there. It's long. We'll open a dram. I'll open a dram once our guest is on. I've gone for the Al Goonsey tonight just to celebrate turning 40 a wee bit. That's in our Tina in a port cask, 13-year-old. Is my dram to kick us off. What have you got yourself, Kat? What's in your glass?
Well, I was thinking about King Charles, obviously, out in France.
As we do.
And, and it's made me think about the Eight Doors Distillery because he was out there like a week ago, opening it up, or 2 weeks ago. So
Yeah.
I went for the Seven Sons. That's their blend.
That's their blend.
Yeah. So I picked that up. I was working at Taste of Grampian and they were there. So yeah, I went for that, for something a bit different. Awesome. It's all in sherry barrels because I think that's their USP, isn't it? They're only going to use
thing,
yeah, so it's a bit sweeter than what I usually go for, but it's nice. It's like 46.7%, so it's nice and weighty. It's good.
Good stuff. We will be speaking about them and to them a little bit later on in the year, I think, because they are coming in to the shop very soon.
That's cool.
So, but enough about them, guys. Let's bring our guest on, who is thankfully here due to Kat's quick thinking on the emails. Let's welcome Calum Diack. Good
Hello,
evening.
everyone.
How are you?
I'm good. Yourselves?
Very, very well. Thank you.
I feel like I should say happy birthday as well, even though I've done it already. But we're live now to do
it. Thanks very much. Slanjava. Cheers.
Slanjava.
Slanj Rick, watching from San Francisco. I think it's about 11 o'clock there. Sometimes he has a dram with us, sometimes he doesn't. Guys who are watching, let us know if you're having a dram and what it is. So cheers. Ian is in Western Australia just now.
Nice.
David Muir is just home. He's watching on Facebook. So he's running the bath just now. So Calum,
does he always watch in the bath?
He always watches in the bath. Yeah, as sure as you will put your hair up in 22 minutes, he is watching from the bath.
Hair's down already. I had it done today, so hair's staying down. I ain't touching it.
You take it down. You don't. You put it up.
Yeah. So it's staying down. I might waft it now and again, like get my £65 worth out of it.
I'll do the same.
Yeah, you waft away. Good beard energy though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you've got it's nice and bushy. I suppose.
Yeah, it's maybe a little bit too bushy for right now, but I'll get it back later.
Is that how you compliment a beard? Nice and bushy.
It's the second bushiest beard I've seen today. We went to Blackburn to pick up the dogs from coming back from holiday, and we went into Starbucks and there was a guy getting into his truck and he had like a proper bushy beard. So, Calum, sorry, I'm rambling. What's in your glass tonight, Calum?
So I was taking the opportunity doing this to kind of reflect on some of the distilleries I've worked for. So I've actually got an Isle of Raasay over here. It's one of the Nashina casks. This is the unpeated X rye at cask strength.
That sounds exciting. I have got a sherry cask distillery exclusive in the garage just now that I tried a couple of years ago with it on the island last year. Was it last year? I think it was last May. It was after the Academy last year. Picked up the sherry cask exclusive. Superb. Had it at the distillery. I haven't had it since I got home yet.
I was actually lucky enough to be one of the people that was degorging the cask for that.
Oh, really?
So I got to try them separate. So the Oloroso cask and the Pedro Jimenez cask separate. And just stunning stuff coming from the distillery. Yeah.
They've got so many exciting little casks. And I was lucky enough to be there on a day that Alistair was entertaining guys over from Norway. So I got to go up and visit the warehouses as well. There's some quarter casks in there that are 6 months old, and we think that should be put in the bottles already. That's the quality is that good.
That was the really good thing with when they were locked down and everything. They were doing that tasting where you got to try the basically unaged, or they couldn't call it whiskey yet stuff. And that was actually my first introduction to the distillery. I actually sat on a tasting with them, and I was like, yeah, I feel like working out here. I feel like that would be the next good step.
So is that what you did? You just like approached them because you enjoyed the tasting so much and like gives a job?
I kind of was looking at a couple of different like Google whiskey jobs, and actually Raasay came up. So I just sent them an email, said, I would love doing the tasting. It would be great to come out to the island. And I heard back from them within a week saying, yeah, it would be great to have you out.
Amazing. Wow. That's really cool. Well, I've got a Raasay sitting, so at some point I haven't opened it yet. So like I'll do it in your honor, Calum, for being so ballsy and just emailing somebody saying like quite fancy working out there. That's really cool. I might try that with a couple other places.
That's
no,
brilliant.
I mean like whiskey shop, obviously very content there, Mike. But
if you wake up and have that view every day to work, why would you?
I've never been to Raasay. It looks beautiful, but I've never been over. How do you get onto Raasay? Do you do it from Skye?
Yeah, so it's a ferry from Sconser on kind of halfway up Skye. 20-minute ferry, get you out onto the island, and then you're about a 5-minute walk to the distillery.
Oh, nice. Is there any vehicles on? Sorry, Karen.
I was just going to ask, did you live on Skye, or how did you?
I lived on Raasay. I was actually in a very luxury accommodation of a caravan for 6 months, which was actually quite nice. It was one of the first times I ever lived away from home, so getting any place that was my own was just lovely.
Caravans are fun though. It's like playing house in miniature.
Yeah, it was also right next to the warehouse, so you can't really complain when you can basically 2-second walk to the warehouse for all of Raasay.
Oh, fab. Do they have cars in Raasay? Because I used to live on an island, and next door to it was Easdale, and you weren't allowed cars, so it was passenger getting on. Like you say that
island,
like everybody had wheelbarrows, so like they would like cheap out and like do all their jobs and stuff with wheelbarrows. Like I don't know if there's other islands where you can't have cars or not.
I don't think you're allowed cars on Iona, maybe. Raasay, you are allowed a car. The island's a bit too big for just walking it.
Is it a big one? That's bad. I don't know.
The ferry's a car ferry, isn't it?
Yeah. Quite a big one.
But there's a book, Calum's Road, as well.
Yeah.
I don't think it's anything to do with yourself. It must be a different Calum, I think.
Is that the old guy that built the roads over the years? Yeah, that's right. He was Raasay. Okay. I remember seeing him on seeing about it on Country File. That's how I roll. I watch Country File. But
I had to, like, as soon as I got to Raasay, because it's a massive sign that says Calum's Road, and it's actually Calum spelt the same way as me. So, went out, grabbed about 20, 40 selfies of myself, at the sign. You know, did a wee little photo shoot every single time I was going up that part of the island with the sign.
It's like in Aberdeenshire, everybody likes to stop at Strathdon. There's a place called Lost, isn't there? And everybody likes to stand underneath it looking confused. Lost.
Well, that's a new one on me. I'll need to head there.
Yeah, you should do it.
There's a twat as well, further up. TWATT.
Just combine the two and just be Lost Twat.
Yeah.
Well, I now know what I'm doing tomorrow.
Yeah, head out and become.
Yeah. So, you're now manager of the Quaich Bar, one of kind of Spayside's, if not Scotland's premier whiskey bars. Was it a similar kind of thing? Did you just write to them and say, I fancy working for you, give us a job?
Yeah, pretty much. I was a couple of months ago, they had advertised for a bar manager, and I was so like humming and haying about applying for it. Turns out the person that got the job actually only stayed for a couple of weeks, and they were advertising again for it. And I just decided, you know what, I feel like a change. I feel like you're ready to make that next step in my career. So just applied for it. I think it was a day after I got a phone call from Daniel, who's the food and beverage manager out there. And yeah, the week after I got the job. So it was a really quick turnaround, and it wasn't maybe what I expected to be so quick. So it kind of took me a bit by surprise.
Yeah, because where were you staying? You're right this end of neck of the woods, weren't you?
Yeah, I was Aberdeen. So
the city.
Yeah, city.
Okay.
So it was kind of like, oh, I've now got this job. Let me go and try and find somewhere to live in Craigellachie or the surrounding area, which is easier said than done.
Yeah, just get a caravan.
Oh, never again.
That would be cool winter. That'd be really cool.
During the summer on Rassie, the caravan would steam up with all the condensation, and you were basically living in a sauna. So I decided 6 months was enough. Never living in a caravan again. I'm never going to go in a caravan again. I'm just going to stay away from them.
That's quite a change to go from. So you went straight from guiding at Glendronach to this role as a bar manager. Have you had have you done any bar work and things before?
Yeah, so I have done bar work before, very briefly. So when I was in university in Aberdeen, I actually worked at Cask in Aberdeen, the kind of basement bar. And then luckily enough, during my degree, I got the opportunity to go out and live on Islay. So I actually did a little bit of bar work at the Craigellachie Hotel on Islay for about 3-4 months. But that was it. And then suddenly to become a bar manager of one of the oldest whiskey bars in Scotland, if not the world, again, yeah. It was a big step and a big kind of leap of faith.
Yeah, it's like 17. What's the date? 1707 or something.
1703, apparently.
1703. Wow.
Is that when the hotel?
Yeah.
So it was actually. It used to be a Drovers Inn, and the old Drovers Inn was what the hotel's kind of dating the Quaich back to. So it was. Yeah, it's one of the oldest whiskey bars in Scotland. Sorry, my laptop seems to be messing up. There we go. So one of the oldest whiskey bars in Scotland, but the hotel was actually built in 1893. So it was built by a man called Edward Alexander, who actually was the man that built Craigellachie Distillery.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of links and connections back to the old Craigellachie Distillery.
Oh, superb. So was that built about the same time then, Craigellachie? Would it have been?
Yeah, 1891, the distillery was built, and then we were just shortly after. So basically, the distillery was built there because the train was there, and they needed somewhere to stay. So businessman as ever decided, build the distillery, and let's build somewhere for people to stay as well at the same time.
Build it and they will come. Absolutely.
I mean, definitely. That's definitely the case now.
Yeah. Superb. Wow, I didn't realise it had links go back that far. That's quite easy. So obviously Drovers Inn being a place for cattle owners to stop off taking, I assume, their cattle up to Elgin would have been the main market back then.
And with all the illicit stills that were around the hills, and even as far up as Glenlivet, and probably a huge amount of whiskey being drunk at the Drovers Inn, very much not legally, but I would have loved to go back to that just to see what they were drinking.
Could you imagine? I'd love to go back. I always think that if you go into really old places, like I would just love to go back in time and see it like in its heyday when, it's rich.
I'm absolutely obsessed with like the history of whiskey. So my dream would be to go back to when Aberdeen had all its distilleries and go and see things like Davana and Bonaccord. Even so, I'm from Bridge of Don. There was a Bridge of Don distillery for about 2 years in the early 1800s, and just to go back, apparently it was worked by one gentleman, and that was it. Just to see what was being made there. Probably not drinkable stuff, but it would be interesting to go and see exactly what was being done.
Is there like a record, because I remember in the distillery, somebody came in and they were tracing extinct distilleries, and like he'd print out like loads of records and maps off like council websites and things. But is there like an actual book of just the lost distilleries? Like you could go and visit the site to them. Does that exist?
I know there's a book called Scottish Mist.
Yeah, Scottish Mist.
And then there's a book by Alfred Bernard, which is the whiskey distilleries of Scotland and the United Kingdom. Yeah. And that's what I use for a lot of when I'm like reading, when I'm sleeping at night, dreaming of whiskey, I'll have the Alfred Bernard book right next to me, reading all about like Davana and the Old Banff and all these other things for most of my information for it.
Do I know that you are a bit of an Ardmore fan, so a bit of a geeky fact for you. Teacher's brand was one of the first adverts to appear in the back of Alfred's book.
Oh, I did not know that.
There you go. That is the Teacher's
Guys,
family.
Can you hear my background just now?
I can hear a little man wanting a bit of attention by the sounds of things.
Yeah. I think he's just getting his bath, but the dogs got wound up because he started crying, and I could just hear chaos going on in the room next to him. I wasn't sure if you could hear it or not. If it goes off again, I'll just I'll silence myself. So I think there's the other one is by David Stirk, is the Campbelltown book, the Lost Distilleries of Campbelltown as well. So I think between those three books, you would pretty much cover a fair history. Have you read the Aeneas MacDonald's book, Whisky?
No, I haven't. No,
it's a great book, written in the mid to late 1800s, maybe early 1900s, and it's basically Aeneas giving his view on the whiskey world. That is very, I don't give a shit what people think about what I think kind of thing. It's a great book, so I could give you a lend of it if you want.
I would love that. I'm so obsessed with the history. I've actually been lucky enough because my dad's a historian and does our family history, and we discovered after I started working in whiskey that Robert Armour, who was the man behind
the Campbelltown,
basically every illicit still known to man, my great grandfather, and actually I am a direct descendant of Robert Armour. So every time in the Campbelltown area,
this is what I was going to ask you. I knew you told me an amazing fact at Glendronach, and I was going to ask you what it was, but that's what it was. That's so cool.
Springbank has a special place in my heart just because of the Robert Armour still that is still sitting there producing arguably some of the best whiskey in Scotland. So
oh man, that's amazing.
So you've got whiskey in your blood.
I mean,
yeah,
you've got that link with Glen Scotia there. You're off on holiday at Loch Lomond. Use that because Loch Lomond Group own Glen Scotia. Say, did you know that I am great.
You can actually say, "Do you know who I am?" Like you can actually legit roll out that line.
I don't think I could bring myself to ever do that. I'd need a good like bucket of whiskey in there for me to go. Do you know who I am?
I think they would expect that, and not only will they let you in and have a look around, I think that you've got an inheritance to the keys.
Oh, I mean, if they want to give me a distillery, I will take it. I'll never complain about it. Well, I've actually just been what I've been doing to try and get into Loch Lomond is been on LinkedIn, connecting with everybody that works at Loch Lomond, just hoping that they'll eventually send me a message going, "Oh, do you fancy coming to Loch Lomond at some point just to have a tour?" But it's not happened yet.
Okay. Well, hopefully somebody's watching. Michael might be watching this. Yeah, come along.
Yeah, that's the hope.
Put it out in the universe. It'll
Exactly.
happen.
Well, when I worked on Rassie for a long time, because Rassie has a staff page, and I was never on the staff page, and I was only a seasonal member of staff, so I never really expected, but every single tour I did at Rassie, I ended with, and if you can let my manager know that you want to see me on the staff page, and eventually about 2 months before I left Rassie, I was eventually put on the staff page. So that's why
you thought,
I've
done everything I could do here. I need to move.
Exactly. And I was on it for like 6 months after I left, so I was still very happy with that fact.
Really? Yeah. They never replaced you. That's what it was.
Oh, I can't say that. Everyone at Rassie is always fantastic, but
yeah,
I would always I've not been back since I left, so that's on my list of things to do. Go back to Rassie and see everyone.
And another work-related scouting trip, obviously.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I still speak to Alistair every now and again, and Alistair's just such a wonderful man. Yeah. He always gives everyone all the time he has. So just a quick message to him. I'm sure I'll be able to go and have a look at Rassie, and hopefully Matt Krahanish in the near future as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Going back to your Campbelltown routes as well with that one.
Exactly. You know, I'm always happy to see more distilleries in Campbelltown, and Witchburn as well coming back or coming to the forefront will be great.
Yeah. Brilliant. I've got a couple of questions from Rick, one on Facebook. Rick's doing his whole dual. He's doing his best to keep our figures high. He's watching them both. So you've got this job. He's asking, is it more bar related, as in physically behind the bar making a whiskey sour or a whiskey cocktail or recommended bars, or are you more management related, as in doing the rotas and doing the ordering and things like that?
So I'm kind of a bit of both. I'm actually really the only member of staff the Quaich Bar has. So when I'm not there, like I'm not tonight, it's actually someone from down in the Copper Dog, or the Spey Inn, as it's now called, the kind of restaurant that comes up to the Quaich and does it for me. So no, I'm kind of behind the bar 5 nights a week, and then the rest of my time I kind of do the ordering. I go to the distilleries. I kind of make the connections. I try and get some weird and wonderful whiskey. Like last week, I managed to get myself a bottle of Avanjadic for the first time.
Oh, nice.
Behind the bar, just, you know, trying to find that things that I think whiskey people will love to come to a bar, which you don't normally see around. Yeah, so it's a lot of spending my time on Master of Malt and Googling and Dram Face and all these other things.
Mm. So would you say you're more interested in kind of core releases, or are you doing independent bottlers, or is there a combination? What's your kind of...
There's definitely a combination between the both of them. There's some independent bottlers which I've just been blown away by every single release I've tried. I think Lady of the Glen by Gregor Hanna, honestly, just some of the best whiskey from independent bottlers. But, you know, I could go on a list. Murray McDavid, again, stunning. Cairnmorn, stunning. So I try and go for them because they make the very kind of out there whiskies. But then when I see core releases that really kind of push the barrier out on what you expect from a distillery, I'm always really interested in that stuff as well. And of course, you need your standards. You need your Macallans, you need your Glenfiddichs and your Glenlivets there, which are all the crowd pleasers behind a bar.
So is it quite a mix then of people who just come in for their standard like favorite dram, and like the ones that really want the knowledge, like what have you got that's different? What have you got that I haven't tried before?
It's actually a lot of people come in and just say, I like this. What do you have? And I will do my best to try and find them things that, you know, maybe they've never tried before. I get a lot of people from the United States coming in and saying, what can I not get in the States?
Yeah.
I want to try that. So it's a bit of a mostly going to that, but then I do get the people that always come in and go, I really fancy Macallan. What kind of Macallans do you have?
Yeah.
Do they actually say Macallan, or do they actually say Macallums?
They definitely say Macallan.
Because I love
say Macallan to me.
Yeah.
Too many people say Macallan.
It tends to be the locals. It's the Scots who say Macallan.
It really is.
There's no Macallan, and the whiskey guys know Macallan. It's all they've ever known. But in Scotland, it tends to be Macallan.
Yeah, Welsh as well always say Macallan to me, and I've actually never known where that's come from. So I'm always like, oh, Macallan.
Yeah, I don't know where it. I think it's maybe just a local dialect that's picked up the way that we say it here. Macallum is a fairly common surname in Scotland, so whereas Macallan isn't. So I think people pick that up and held it. Before, obviously, it was the big brand and the big kind of whiskey that it is now.
Well, I'm actually glad you went and said Tina. I can't even say it. I find it horrendous to try and say it. I always call it Teenick.
Teenick. Well, you can't say Teenick.
Teenick, yeah.
Teenick. Like, there's just too many consonants in the middle.
Oh, I know. It's one of the worst ones.
Do it again.
Teenick.
It's like me trying to say anaesthetist. I can't do it.
It's T-Ninnick.
T-Ninnick. Okay.
Yeah, I always go.
But then you emphasize the A, I think, so it's T-Ninnick.
Oh, you just made it more complicated.
Well, I've finished my T-Ninnick, so I'm going to pour something that's a little bit easier for both of you to pronounce. And let's crack this one open.
Have you ever tried phoning Glendronach's phone line, Calum?
Oh, I always used to get this all the time.
I'm sorry to be that person, but I phone it sometimes just when I'm feeling a bit sad because it just cheers me up.
I'm not even going to try and say what it says, but it is the most, robotic way of saying Glendronach. It butchers it every time.
I see, because Annette in the shop likes to slag me off because I give it like full Aldi Uber Scottish Glendronach. But like the lady on the phone is like, "Hello, you've reached Glendronach." It's really bad. But it's also really entertaining.
Yeah.
Well,
we're not going to encourage you to phone up and block the phone lines.
Don't cold call Glendronach for sport, but no, don't.
And don't say I sent you to do it either.
Absolutely. So yeah, I got this bottle as a present on the birth of Killian. It says to Glenn in the bottle because we joked that we're going to call him Glenn.
Right.
So that's the name of this was during the Whisky Academy in March. So it's cask number 5952. It was my 40th birthday, so I thought, we've got Calum here, former Glendronach worker who took the guys on the tour when they bought this. Cat was there. It just ties in, so I have to open this one. So I wish I could share it with you guys. But that was the 9th of the 3rd, 23. I did also buy the older one as well. So I've got that sitting in situ. Maybe for his 18th birthday, I'll open that one.
Lovely big old
TX puncheon. So let's... yeah.
Cheers, Killian.
Did we ask you what's in your glass, Colin?
Yeah, I've still got my Rassi here.
It was your yeah.
But I might be getting drunk pretty soon, so I might need to move on to one of the other drams that are sitting in the corner.
So Rick, who's watching, he was with us on the tour. He was one of the guys on the academy, so he was one of the guys who chipped in. So Slanger Rick, cheers.
I have to mention Ian's comment is there as well there, just because like I had an epic moment the other day. So Fred No's book is very good, and yes, I did meet Fred No the other day at the distillery. Totally fangirled all over him.
No.
I also met Rob Samuels of the Samuels family of Maker's Mark too. So I was so excited.
Right.
Yeah.
They're being Satori owned as well. Maker's Mark.
Pardon? Yes. Yeah.
Maker's Mark are being,
yeah. So yeah, we had them both out over at the distillery on Tuesday, I think it was. So yeah, it was really, really exciting. He's just like a proper gent, old school, but lovely.
And have you read his book?
It was, yeah. So when I first started at the distillery that must not be named, get your glasses ready, everyone. When I first started there, it was one of the first things we were given. So I read his books, because as soon as he walked in, I was like, "You're the guy off the book." But yeah.
So is he the distiller there now? Is that the same guy?
Yeah,
The
Fred
family.
was like master distiller for Jim Beam, but he's like generations as well.
Yeah.
And then Rob Samuels, he's like, I don't know, generations of the Samuels have had Maker's Mark as well. Like his granny was the one that designed the bottle with the wax and that.
Wax. And the little sepia kind of label on it.
Yeah, that was his nana or his granny. So yeah, it was really, really exciting to meet them. Really cool.
Cool.
So yes, I did meet them, Ian. Thank you for pointing that out, so I could just shoehorn that in there. Okay, back to you, Calum.
I mean, there's a reason you comment that. We're talking books at the time, and that was...
Yes. Yeah.
What else have we got? There's a couple of comments coming in. Rick saying, this will go back to you being the only staff in the Quaich Bar. He says your staff performance reviews must be awesome.
Oh yeah, 10 out of 10 every single time.
He did ask a good question though about where's it gone?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, about what would you? So if somebody walks into the Quaich Bar, and has no clue about how many people get that wrong, by the way, Quaich and quiche.
All the time.
It's got to be. I'm going to give Rick the benefit of the doubt. That's all correct.
It's autocorrect. I know it's autocorrect.
No computer in America has Quaich.
Honestly, I spend my life telling people what a Quaich is, because it's always, I get some people that call it a quack, and they're coming into the Quaich Bar, and I'm like, yeah, I suppose, but no. And then I always have to do the same thing of, like, earthquake. And then it always works.
I was a bridesmaid at a wedding, and on like the program that you get, I know it's not called a program at a wedding, whatever it's called, order service. The other bridesmaid was like, "What do you mean we're having quiche at the wedding?" I was like, "No, that's the Quaich. That's the Quaich. We're doing a Quaich." But yes, it's definitely autocorrect, Rick. I get it. Don't worry.
You should have like a toy duck or something that makes a quack noise behind the bar, and whenever somebody says the Quaich Bar, you just quack it.
Quack
well,
it.
Actually, now you say that, there is now a duck actually in the Quaich Bar. I got it last night from one of the receptionists. Right. So I've stuck it up on one of the shelves beside one of the bottles. So there is a little duck in the Quaich.
You should build up like this kind of following. Whenever somebody says Quaich Bar, you quack it, and then everyone else in the bar goes, "Way!" Remember when you used to ring a bell when you got a tip? I don't know if you've ever worked in a bar there. Cheers.
You should get merchandise, like Quaich, not quack.
I will actually suggest that, and honestly, probably the owner, who's fantastic, will probably go for it as well.
Yeah,
I want a T-shirt. If you're getting those print, this is like it's been recorded. Like,
there's some T-shirts.
We want T-shirts.
I'll make sure they make their way to Inverurie. Don't worry.
So, what are the plans for the Quaich Bar? What have you got? Because obviously you've come in. The previous manager didn't stay very long. Yeah. What's your plans now? Are you looking to move it forward? Are you going to be hosting tastings, or are you just going to really cater for the guests of the hotel?
So there's a lot of exciting things in the pipeline now that I've kind of just started working on. So one of the main aims for me was to get it out to more whiskey fans. We're very lucky in Craigellachie that we also have an absolute fantastic bar right next door to us in the form of the Highlander. Yeah. So the Highlander is actually part of the Independent Whisky Bars of Scotland. So that was one of my main aims. So I've actually been speaking to Phil Thompson of Thompson Brothers, who are such great whiskey people, to hopefully get Craigellachie into the Independent Whisky Bars of Scotland, or the Quaich into the Independent Whisky Bars of Scotland. Also been speaking to Scottish Malt Whisky Society. So looking at maybe becoming a partner bar for them. Again, just bringing more whiskey people in. But on the kind of tasting sides, on my first day, I kind of got, it was even before I started working then, I came up there on a Wednesday and I started my first shift on a Thursday, but Torvik were popping in past. So I was speaking to Stuart from Todavec.
Yeah.
And Stuart's fantastic as well. I met him when he was still at Tomatin. So maybe doing some tastings. I've been speaking to some other people, speaking to Rassi as well. Maybe doing some special nights out at the Quaich where we can get distilleries that are not from around here into the bar, so we can kind of share some stories, share some good drams. But yeah, there's also some other things I fortunately can't talk about yet, but there are some very exciting things in the pipeline for the Quaich.
Oh, that see, now you've just teased us.
Well, I can tease you a little bit more. So one of the great things we did at the Quaich a long time ago was we worked with Glenfarclas for Quaich bottling of Glenfarclas. We are very much near the end of that. I think we maybe have 2 bottles left of it for the bar, and that's it. So I'm going to have something to replace it. Of course, that is a Quaich product. Cool. So hopefully in the future, I'll be able to actually tell you a little bit more about what is coming. But I have been speaking to a couple of people about doing another Quaich release.
Nice. Well, Ian has just asked on YouTube, does the bar have their own bottling releases or plan to do so in the future? So
yes
and yes.
There's a couple of distilleries that I'm very interested, and a couple of independent bottlers I'm very interested in working with to try and get some special Quaich versions out there. And not just for maybe behind the bar, but maybe can be sold at the hotel in full bottles as well.
Wow, that's exciting. So it must be fun coming into this like with all fresh ideas and having like a sort of a management team that is willing to listen and take them on board and do something with them.
Yeah, no, I'm very lucky with Daniel, who's the person above me who does all the food and beverage. He's fantastic. And then having Pierce, who's the owner, who is very, very much an ideas man. He loves when people come to him with stuff. So I'm very lucky that I've kind of walked into a fantastic place that are willing to, take everything on board and work with my mad ideas sometimes and try and make sure that we can make them a reality.
Fun. We'll have to do a staff trip out, Mike.
Oh, yeah. We'd love to have yous. And I mean, we've got about 600 whiskies behind the bar right now. And one of my main aims is we need to get over 1,000. So I'm slowly plugging away, getting distillery exclusives, getting some fun, interesting things like the Avonjadic. I've got a Hebrak from Harris on the way. So I've pre-ordered that already. That should be in the bar.
Did you watch the video that they sent out telling you how to pronounce it?
I haven't yet. No.
How do you pronounce it?
I think you were right. Was it Hebrak?
Hebrak. It is? Okay, that's cool.
I just presumed it was like that independent bottling from Isla being the Elic. I presumed it was the same kind of style.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
But yeah,
that comes out next week from the distillery, and then we've got it retailer got it coming in. I think on the 8th of October is our release date.
Well, hopefully I should have it on the 2nd of October. All things going well. I've got my fingers very much crossed that the pre-order comes in by then.
We've got a chat coming up as well to do with that. We've got somebody booked for that too. So if you're a fan of Harris, then look out to mid-October.
I'll definitely be joining that. I love this kind of special connection, having been out on Rassi to all the Hebridean kind of distilleries and all of them popping up.
Yeah, I'd love to see Harris. It looks beautiful. I need to do some more islands. I might have lived on a bloody island, but I need to go and do some more islands. It's just the farther flung ones are a little bit more geographically challenging, isn't it? Just a bit more.
You just wait till Barra comes online, and then you can do Avonjadic, Harris, and Barra all in a row, and you'll be sorted.
Is Avonjadic the one on Lewis?
Yeah, the mad one. I
didn't want to say the one that looks like it's in a shed, but it looks like it's in a shed.
I think Janice has been over to it from the shop.
She has, because it was her pictures that I saw.
Yeah.
I have only ever seen pictures of it, but the best way I describe it when people ask, because when the bottle of Avonjadic is actually cloudy, when you pick it up, it's very much kind of, it definitely is not chill filtered. And the best way I can describe it is it's what whiskey would have been like if you made it in 1750. And I think it's fantastic that there's a distillery that's still able to do that.
Yeah, no, it's nice. It is
I
really
think the Cabrick are trying to recreate that style as well. They've got the community distillery coming up, which is going to be really interesting.
I had popped my head in because I wanted to do it during Spirit at Speyside, but unfortunately I was I had to work at Glendronach that day when they were actually doing most of the events, but I kind of drove past it and I cannot wait. Any new distillery is my kind of thing. If I can go and visit them, if I can drink their whiskey, I get very excited about them.
There's so many good new ones, isn't
there?
Yeah. For the bar, I just got Glenwivis as well, which being community owned and operated is kind of right on my street. And I've actually got a list on my notebook, which I use at the bar, of all the distilleries I still don't have. And the idea is to tick all of them off slowly and surely so that every single distillery in Scotland at least has one bottle behind the bar at the Quaich. Just for anyone that wants to come in and go, do you have this? Yes, I do. Here you go. You can try it.
You're going to include Great Grain whiskies in that as well, then?
Yeah. So I've currently got Loch Lomond, Strathclyde, Girvan, and North British. So I'm looking for Cameron Bridge. I'm also looking for some of the closed ones like Port Dundas. I've got quite a few of the closed single malt distilleries. So I'm always looking to add to that as well.
How do you keep that as like an inventory of like, with your staff of like somebody saying, do you have such and such? It's like Ollivanders and Harry Potter, and you just kind of like hope it just levitates out as you ask for it or something. So in my head, that's how real life works.
Oh, it does. I feel like it does at least. I've got it all in order of the whiskey regions and then alphabetical order inside of the whiskey region. But my pet peeve is it's how it's always been set up, but they had it in the whiskey's name. So all the singletons were together, which was driving me up the wall because Glenord should not be in Speyside. So I had to stretch it out, and Anoch shouldn't be in A, it's Knockdo, so it's now in K. So I was very much, this is how it needs to be set up. This is how it is done when I first got into the bar.
I guess so many people do so many different ways, and a lot of it depends on your staff and how well clued up they are as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes regions just seem to change for no reason as well. Like what region is it in? It's ambiguous.
Week of the year, Knockdo becomes Speyside.
I was looking at, I have a Murray McDavid bottle, one of their mystery malts, and it's called Juniper Hill. So I am just automatically presuming it's Tomatin. But it says Speyside on it. Martin's not in Speyside.
You've just hit a nerve there.
Yeah, we had this discussion in the shop because at the same time they took out what was it, Strathdown?
Yeah,
in the same release, Strathdown, which is that it's famously known to be Tomatin, and that was Highland. So we were like, and then me and Janet had a discussion in the shop, and we were looking, and the other on the description it gave the river, the Lossy, the River Lossy, is the water source. So, what was the other distillery that's on the Lossy? Is it Glen Lossy? Or was it?
I would assume it is Glenlossy.
I think so. So we thought, well, that's Speyside. It could be that, but I knew that Tomatin means Juniper Hill, and that's where the name comes from. It's got to be Tomatin, and that caused many a debate in the shop that it's not Glenlossy. It's got to be. Yeah, so that's a shout. And I even emailed Dean and Ben at Murray McDavid, and they confirmed it was Tomatin, but they didn't confirm that it was a deliberate mistake on the Speyside or what that was all about.
I think they like to throw people off.
Yeah.
Just with some of the mystery malt names, you do need to be like a proper know everything about whiskey to work out some of them.
Yeah. That was
fun. No, I have very good fun with the mystery malts, Joe, trying to decode. One of my favorite ones was the guys at Dramfool. I was speaking to them, and they had a Lagavulin, and Lagavulin just don't allow you to use their name for anything. So what they decided they were going to do was call it Like a Villain, which is such a smart idea as well for it.
Yeah, I love these mystery malt kind of across the board. You know, some of the clues, like Boutique always have great labels giving clues as to what's going on.
I was speaking to Mark Thompson last week, and like obviously his picture's on the front of the bottle, so it's like the biggest giveaway of what the unknown Speyside whiskey is. It's like that's Mark. It's definitely Glenfiddich.
But is that not? Oh well, because it's a single malt. It wasn't Ward. Was it Wardhead? Is Glenfiddich?
I don't know actually. I'm not sure.
I'm sure Wardhead is teaspoon Glenfiddich. Burnside is teaspoon Balvenie.
Yeah, Burnside.
Dalrymple is teaspoon Ailsa.
The only other one I know is from working at Brown-Forman. Peatside is Benriach teaspooned with our Glenglassaugh teaspooned into Benriach.
All right.
Oh,
and that's a Peatside.
Peatside.
Yeah.
And I know Williamson because big up Bessie.
Oh, everyone knows Williamson. You got to know that.
That's the only one.
And the other one, Westport is the other one. Is Glenmurray and Glenmorangie. I think Glenmurray is the teaspoon. If the teaspoon ever actually happens, I don't think that's. I still don't believe that anyone's going to pay anyone to walk around a warehouse with a bucket and a teaspoon and a bung hammer and just.
One of my favorite whiskey things was when I was working at Whiskey Hammer doing the auctions. You get a lot of the rare stuff, and whenever a serendipity came in, that is just such a fantastic thing where, you know, a bottle of vat of Glenmurray gets Ardbeg put into it, and it's just this thing like they decide not to fire the guy, but they decide to call it serendipity, and it's one of the most kind of beloved blends, if you can call it that, out there.
It's Ardbeg. Those guys have got their creative hats on when it comes to some of the releases, don't they? Oh,
they have a lot of happy accidents, don't they?
We've left that lid on. Left the lid off.
And we've come up with this really amazing, strategically fantastic name for that accident that we shouldn't have happened. But here's all the branding to go with it.
Well, one of my favorite big sellers behind the bar right now is Bizarbecue, and Bizarbecue sells so well. And honestly, it's such a fantastic dram as well that people just love it, and they love the story behind it. And I always recommend to go and watch the advert with Bill Lumsden and DJ Pitmaster. It's just such a funny little advert as well for the release of it.
I've never tried it.
I would watch the advert, but yeah.
Well, they decide that they're going to start barbecuing at the warehouses at Ardbeg, which is probably not the smartest idea in the world, and it goes exactly how you would expect it to, with not being the smartest idea in the world. So it's a very good advert. Ardbeg know what they're doing.
They do. It's like the little brown dog video for how teaspooning accidentally happens. You know, accidents happen in warehouses.
I watched that video about 5 times when it first came out. I love what Little Brown Dog are doing as well. And I saw that it was just their birthday as well. In 5 years, it feels like they've been around making some fantastic indies for ages.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, it does feel like they've been around for longer than 5 years.
I watched that video about 5 times as well, just to see how they managed to make that teaspoon float, because it was so well hidden. No idea how it happened.
But it's like the new one, the Craigellachie. How do they get the wee card to do like all the kind of little drifting around the Craigellachie track? Craigellachie, the car track.
Yeah.
You were also a little girl when you grew up, because every boy knows how to pronounce Craigellachie.
Oh, don't genderize. Don't genderize.
I don't know, because I grew up in the time where what I was doing was playing FIFA all the time and football games.
You're far too young for this.
Don't even.
Young pepper.
I get a lot of looks when people start to ask me about whiskey, and I'm like, yes, I am only 27, and I've been in whiskey since I was basically 18.
See, you know how you were categorizing whiskey there, Mike, as in like young, middle-aged, and old? I think we've kind of like nailed it there. Young, middle-aged. Oh,
I love on my screen. You've put
I'm doing it the other way around.
And yourself is old. That works for me.
No.
Thank you, Kat. Thank you very much. That is going to be the trailer for this Blether. I'm going to cut that.
I forgot about opposites.
The one problem is when I'm buying whiskey from 1996, it doesn't feel like I'm buying young whiskey. It feels like I'm buying very expensive old whiskey nowadays.
Yeah. And that's always something that gets me. And you're talking about grain whiskies and all that. Adelphi had a 44-year-old out, and I was like, but that can't be 44. It's only in the 80s. I was like, and it hit me yesterday that I was born closer to the war, the end of the Second World War, than Killian has been born to my birth.
Yeah, that's one way of looking at it.
Yeah.
It's very depressing when you look at it.
Yeah, right.
Well, it's when you work at people's age, when you ID them, you're like, yeah, try again. Oh, no, wait, that is right. Oh, it's really depressing.
I don't get that much of an issue with it when people are coming into a very old-fashioned whiskey bar. I don't normally have to ID the people, but at Glendronach, there was a couple of people I had to ID, and they're like, you're born in the 2000s. That even makes me feel old when I was born in the 90s.
Yeah, I guess you don't get many people coming up and asking for a cheeky underage kind of party or whatever.
No, I do get a lot of people that ask for vodka, though, in wine. And I always have the exact same response if someone asks for wine. They're like, which wine do you have? And I'm like, red, white, or rosé. I only have one bottle of each, unfortunately.
Okay, you just a house wine, and that's
pretty much house wine, a Merlot, a Pinot Grigio, and a White Zinfandel. Because there's no point in having any nice wine because I'll maybe open it and serve one drink every 4 months.
I guess you could have a nice wine that's only available by the bottle. So if somebody wants to come in, you could just say, well, it's only available by the bottle for that exact reason.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure lots of guys would come in as couples, as groups, and there's maybe not a whiskey drinker in there. So
that's what I do have some lovely gins, so that's why. So we've got actually our own house kind of gin, which we've been working with Inveraris distillery for.
Okay.
Making what we call the Spey Fly. So kind of connecting back to that, the fishing and the gillies, because we get a lot of fishing parties, people wanting to go out onto the Spey, try and catch some salmon, try and catch some trout. So we've actually made Spey Fly gin for that, which is a really nice, easy drinking gin. And we're doing it in small batches, which is also a fantastic idea because you get one that's bottled, number and everything.
Cool. That's cool. Nice. Just talking about your own private bottlings and that, I'm going to go back to a question that was asked by Ian. He wasn't content with the answer that you gave, which was just yes. He wants to know, are there any particular world whiskey nations or distilleries that you've got your eye on securing?
So, not so much world. The one thing with the Quaich, as much as I love things like McNamara, I love Millstone, I'm kind of obsessed right now with Clonakilty down in Ireland. One thing is they're great for myself, but they just do not sell behind the bar because everyone comes to Scotland wanting single malt or blends of from Scotland. So kind of inside of Scotland, the ones I've kind of got my eye on, it wouldn't be right if I didn't say Craigellachie. I mean, I love Craigellachie to bits as a distillery. Personally, it's one of my favorite drams to have. So definitely looking at Craigellachie. I would love to do some stuff with Balvenie and Macallan if it was ever possible. But then also some of the new ones, Dunfail, which should be opening relatively soon.
Yeah, there's Spirit's running now, isn't it? The Spirit run
running fantastic.
3 weeks ago, something like that.
And I've heard rumours of Colburn and Dallas Dew coming back up and online. So Dallas Dew always got a special place in my heart. I loved a story when I was at Ben Romick where they were telling me that basically Dallas Dew and Ben Romick are the exact same distillery because Charles Creed Doig decided to turn them upside down so he didn't have to do true drawings. So they are the flip of each other, which I always think is a fantastic story. But yeah, no, I mean, the one problem I have, and it's definitely a problem for my wallet, is I love every single distillery in Scotland. And I will drink and buy every single distillery in Scotland, so I'd happily work with every single distillery in Scotland.
Give me your whiskey.
Yeah, exactly. That's all I'm ever doing. I was for a long time when I was younger, I was very much like sort of like a whiskey evangelicist. I was very much like, it cannot have artificial colouring in it. It cannot be chill filtered. It needs to be 46%. It needs to be all this kind of stuff. But when I've gotten older, I've realised that, there's so much good whiskey made inside of being chill filtered and artificial colouring that it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, as long as you're enjoying the product and you're enjoying what you've got in front of you. Yeah. So every distillery.
There are times when you just feel like giving up, and instead of preaching, you just say, well, if you want to miss out on all this wonderful whiskies, then that's up to you. I meet so many guys, I speak to them on social media and that, I never drink anything under 15 years old. I never drink anything under 50%. And instead of harping on and getting on my high horse and soapbox and saying, look, you need to try it, you're doing it all wrong. Just say, it's your loss. The guys, there's enough guys in the world to drink it.
Mm-hmm. I'm probably the opposite of that. I probably don't drink anything over 15 years old because I always find that, you can get such good value in your 3-year-old whiskies. Like one of the ones I fell in love with, even just the idea of it, was the Ardbeg Wee Beastie, going back to the marketing from Ardbeg, but Rassy, even Glenwivis, which we spoke about, Ardnamurchan, all under, you're 10 years old, but are producing some of the best stuff that you can get. And the more people that are saying, I don't want to drink anything that's under 15 years old, the better, because it means there's more availability for me.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's very true. I love the Wee Beastie. It's such a good drum.
It's not what I've tried.
It's a huge punch of Ardbeg in the face, but really it is the best way possible.
It's like a proper if you don't like peat, then you're gonna like it now, or give up now.
Yeah.
It's just it was the first dram I bought when I moved into my new house, and I just had it in a mug with some fish and chips, just feeling like a boss. I love it. It's really good. The one thing I hear all the time from people is I only drink Speyside. I think that's such a narrow section of whiskey to stick to. I get it. It's like a safe comfort thing. It's like marketing, branding.
I guess there. From our point of view, you've got two hats on, Cal, and I've got one, and Calum's kind of got a third hat in being the bar as well. And that we have a lot of people looking for gifts, and a large part of our customer base is people looking for gifts. And if they know that Granda drinks a Speyside, then that's what they want. And I don't think people in Scotland know enough about whiskey to deviate from that. So if we try here's a Glencadam, it's got a really nice kind of elegant Speyside style, or a Tomatin, the lighter side of the Highlands and stuff. They're like, oh no, it has to be it. So I've got that hat on there where I sympathise with customers, say, well, fair enough, that's what you're coming in. Calum's now in a position where you can say, well, have a dram of it. You're not buying a bottle. Have a dram, have a taste. Let's try this. And I was going to segue back just when you commented about having loving all the distilleries, having such a wide choice. Rick asked a wee while ago when somebody walked into the Quaich Bar.
Oh yeah, we never got to the end of that question.
We never I wanted to go back to it because we didn't actually we started talking about quiches and quacks and stuff. Somebody comes in without a clue about Scottish whiskey. What would you pour? What would you recommend? And I guess that kind of whole ties in with the space side and that kind of thing.
So if someone doesn't I get a lot of people that come in and they, it's one of the partners, they're a couple and one of them doesn't like whiskey. And normally my go-to right now is actually Tamnavulin. I think Tamnavulin, especially in the red wine series, the American Cabernet Sauvignon and the Temporolo wine cask are such a good way for people that, are wine drinkers getting into whiskey. Because it's got all that fruitiness that they expect from the wine, but then it's also at 40%, so they're not going to, burn their taste buds off or anything. But then also, I always think another good one is either Balvenie 14 Caribbean cask, which is everyone's favorite go-to in Balvenie, or Glen Scotia's double cask rum.
Oh, right. Yeah.
These are like some fantastic ones, and the other one I would always go to is Edradour or Edradour. I can never say it correctly.
I don't know which way you're meant to do that.
No. They have an 11-year-old which is aged in Sauterne. And I had a lovely gent in from England, and he retired, and he just drunk Cragganmore and Cardew his whole life. And I gave him the Edradour, and he said it was literally like drinking honey, which I think is probably one of the best things for someone that isn't a big fan of whiskey to maybe try as well.
Yeah. So it's like kind of full strength liqueur. Yeah.
Well, the other one is I get a lot of people from the States who say, I drink bourbon. I don't know much about single malt. There was an independent bottling of Linkwood done by a company called Taman. And Taman did this in virgin oak and then finished off in Sierra wine casks. And it is the most bourbon single malt whiskey I've ever tried. It smells like bourbon. So that's always one I kind of put down in front of them and say, if you like bourbon, let this be your entryway into drinking single malt Scotch whiskey.
See, that's fantastic. Like, not everywhere has that level of knowledge to offer that kind of that alternative. Yeah. There's not a lot of really good bars out there that could do that. I don't know. I don't drink out a lot, but.
Well, I always like.
I've seen you out in the Randana wheel a few times, Kat. You're out enough.
Single, ready to mingle.
I always like. The one thing I always hated when I was going into whiskey bars was that they would always go, oh, yeah, I've got the suggestion for you. They bring it down, £45 a nip for this lovely whiskey. And I'm like, but no one wants to pay that. So I always try and suggest things that are like £15 and under for people. If someone comes in and they're wanting something that's more expensive, they're wanting one of the lost distilleries, or they're wanting, I've got a Macallan Reflection or Frexione, for example, and all these other things I do have, but I'm never going to suggest it to someone. And the other thing is, when you go into a whiskey bar and they go, oh, if you don't like whiskey, here's this Glenmorangie for you to try. And you're already automatically going, no, it's Glenmorangie. It's not maybe the one that they should be starting on, and all these other things. So I try and make everyone feel like, there's always a whiskey out there for every person. Even if it's not your favorite thing in the world, there's definitely a whiskey that can get you into whiskey. We're lucky enough, we've got 148, I think the last SWA count was for the distilleries. And inside of them, say, each of them makes 6 core releases, and then you've got all the independent bottlings. There's so much whiskey out there, so much more variety, and even outside of Scotland, that there's always a whiskey for everyone.
Yeah. Do you stock bourbon? Do you have a few bourbons in there?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, so I've got a couple of Balcones. So I've got Brimstone, Baby Blue Corn, and the single malt. And then I've got Maker's Mark, I've got a Jim Beam. I've got Jack Daniels and Woodford Reserve as well. So I've got a couple of bourbons, and then being lucky enough that Sarah Burgess is connected with the hotel. So, it wouldn't be right if I didn't have some lakes, of course, as well.
Yeah.
I've got Bimber, Penderyn, which I always hate trying to say, and Irish whiskey as well. So I've got quite a few things from all over the world. The only thing I don't have, which I'll always refuse to touch, is Japanese whiskey, because Tatsuya, I cannot step on Tatsuya. Tatsuya is fantastic, and he knows his Japanese whiskey inside and out. So it would never feel right for me to have any Japanese whiskey behind the bar.
I'm not walking off an outrage. I'm just going to get my charger. I'll be back.
Can you imagine Tat's outrage when your next your shop exclusive or your bar exclusive was a Chichibu? Yeah, only available at the Craigellachie Hotel, Quaich Bar.
Well, I think actually a Chichibu might be coming. But not behind my bar. No, I try and focus on the single malts, and then I always have the odd wee little whiskey that if someone wants to try it, it's there. They can have a wee little try of it.
And I get it's nice that you have that conscious effort to not, as I say, bed on Tat's what he's done, and he does it so well. And I guess people who are in Craigellachie will know if they want Japanese whiskey, his collection is fantastic, and he makes sure that everyone in the bar knows, doesn't staff wise know exactly what they're looking for.
We're very lucky where we've got, apart from maybe artisanal in Wishaw and maybe pot still in Bon Accord, we've probably got one of the biggest whiskey collections in Scotland for people to drink. That, the Highlander is very good at what it does, and then we're very good at what we do. They don't overlap, which we're really lucky with. And I'd be remiss if I didn't also give a shout out to the Fiddick side as well, which is just one of the, the nicest little bars in Scotland. If you want to feel like you're stepping back, 100 years to what bars in Scotland would have been like, the Fiddick side is just right there for it.
Yeah. It's always closed when I've been wanting to go there, but always open when I've passed thinking, I'm driving, I can't go in.
I'm actually I say this because on last Friday I actually had the day off and I went to the Fiddick site, and it's one of these whiskey things where, so I went to Old Mackin Academy in Aberdeen, and my technical teacher was a guy called Mr. Allen, as I know him then. So turns out he retires, he moves up to Aberlour, he becomes one of the lead guides at Glenfarclas. So when I turned 21, I actually went to Glenfarclas, and there he is. He does the tour with me and everything.
He's still there?
He is still there. So
does he wear long socks?
He might do. I don't really. I wasn't really looking at his feet, I have to admit.
He was in the shop the other day, Mike. He came in with some clients from Glenfarclas that he helps them kind of source high-end whiskey.
Did you say long socks or odd socks?
Long, which is quite odd, but he had like shorts, long socks. But yeah, he was a teacher.
It's Leon that he takes around. I actually remember them from, he took them to Glendronach one time.
Okay, yeah, I think they were heading over there that day anyway, and they were thinking about popping into the other local distillery. So yeah, I know who you're talking about.
He's just one of the nicest people, and I never expected when I decided I wanted to work in whiskey that I would bump into my old technical teacher along the way.
That's funny, isn't it? Small world.
It is this thing. It is a very small world working in whiskey.
Oh, I know. Yeah. And the more you see people,
you see the same faces coming up. Well, the
first time I ever really met anyone from Infinity Whiskey Shop was at Rassie, when I've just absolutely forgotten his name.
Russell.
Russell.
It's easy to forget. He's easy for.
Russell came in, and I actually did Russell's tour at Rassie, and then skip forward a year to 2 years, I'm taking him around Glendronach as well.
Yeah.
Funny,
he came back from Rassie raving about the tour and everything, and he mentioned you by name on your knowledge out with Rassie as well. And when he heard that you were at Glendronach, he was very keen to come up, and I know there's a good chat there.
I've never met anybody that could out geek me on teachers and Ardmore knowledge. I was like top trumps with you, but when at Glendronach, I was like, here's a fact. Well, here's a fact. Did you know?
I almost was going to go for a teacher's 1960s blend tonight, because me being as nerdy as humanly possible, I actually went and bought on auction a teacher's old blend because I wanted to have the Glendronach teachers and the Ardmore teachers. So I nearly cracked that open tonight.
Oh my God, we'll save that for like a day when we're in the same place.
Yes. Well, if you're ever up in Craigellachie, I'm sure we can crack it behind the bar.
Well, we're up quite often. And actually, I might be looking for a place to stay in early October. So yeah. I'll give you a shout. Or give the hotel a shout and see if I can get a room.
Yeah, no, of course we can easily try and sort it out. Awesome. I've actually just moved on to another whiskey, and I'd be remiss not to show this one off.
That's old school Benry, as in Billy Walker school of Benry.
Yeah, so the reason I started to get into whiskey was my granddad, and this is actually my granddad's old bottle, which I opened a little while ago, but it's one of these ones that it just kind of serendipity that I ended up working for Benry Cans from Foreman.
Mm.
Amazing. Right. I can't go and get another dram because I've got my computer perched in my lap and I'm on my tiptoes to hold to the eye level.
I can see them behind. They're literally arm's length.
I just can't move because if I let go of the computer, it's just going to go. I've got it piled up on books on my tippy toes.
There is a bit of a, damned if you do, damned if you don't. At least you've got the whiskies in the background now.
Yeah.
And we can see the Ardmore.
The Ardmore Portwood in the background, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't want to open that because there's no way of getting more. Like, once that's gone, it's gone.
I didn't realise how close the Ardmore design was to the Bowmore 15 behind it.
Yeah, the colour, I mean.
Yeah.
They're quite similar colours. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. But no, I don't know when. I've got an Ard layer sitting as well that I just need to find a nice excuse to open up. My brother lives next door to this Ard layer Stone Circles, so one night we're going to go up to Stone Circles and crack open the Ard layer, I think.
You're going to dance around like pagans.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
Well, actually, just the last whiskey I bought was actually an Ardmore. It was an Ardmore 11-year-old from Murray McDavid, finished in Oloroso sherry.
Yeah.
And it is the closest thing to Bizarrebecue that I could ever find. I think it tastes more like barbecue than Bizarrebecue does. It's just like drinking pork ribs. And I actually bought it in the petrol station at Craigellachie. Was in for petrol one day, saw it, and was like, yes, I need that. I drink it so much. It's behind the bar at the Quaich. It's behind the bar at the Highlander. I definitely need to pick up a bottle of it.
It's a great little station because when we're out doing tours, quite often, so we need a wee top up of the fuel or I need to go and get digestives for the cows at Cardew or whatever, and that's always where I go because I've got a great little whiskey selection and very, very good prices as well.
Well, it's gotten even better. It was a big story in Craigellachie. It's now got 24-hour pumps.
Wow.
So, 24-hour petrol in Craigellachie now.
Wow.
Modern times.
Look out, world.
The shop is open 24 hours.
I wish. Unfortunately, it still closes at like 10. But
yeah, last time I was there, it was because normally I drive from the village side, and you go in that first turning, but there was two people in the pump, and they were both facing as if they come from the cooperage.
Yeah.
And I was like, right, okay. So I'll go past the turn and come back the way. And literally caused a complete traffic jam because people were like, you don't come in from that side, you always come in from the village side. So by the time I'd gone round there, so I'm facing downhill, another 2 cars and a motorbike had come in, and they were waiting for these guys to get out, like nose to nose. And everyone was just like, well, I'm not moving. So luckily I'm diesel, and there's a wee kind of extra diesel pump just in the out with the forecourt. I'm just going to reverse into this one and have nothing to do with that. Yeah.
Just sneak out again.
Just in the near future, because I am the house nearest the petrol station now in Craigellachie, with everything getting finalised today, I will be very much moaning about everyone trying to use the Craigellachie petrol station because I will not be able to get into my road.
Are you on, is it Spey Road?
Yes, I am number 1 Spey Road.
Well, now we know where to come for a dram. You heard it here first.
There's going to be a massive sign outside saying "No one welcome." No. Yeah. My whiskey collection's too big. I mean,
yeah. So are you at home just now, or are you in the hotel?
I'm in Aberdeen right now. So this is actually my dad's whiskey collection, and my dad doesn't drink whiskey.
Right. Okay.
So
was that 20-year-old Ben Drake? You just thought, that's Dad's.
Oh no! So since I only got the papers finalised today, I've not actually moved in. So I've still got all my whiskey collection here.
Right.
The problem is that over the years I've managed to accumulate like 300 bottles. So I have no idea when I'm going to store them in my new house because I can barely store them here in Aberdeen. So it'll be a lovely fun job of also moving it an hour and a half up to Craigellachie. It'll be a logistical nightmare trying to work out how to do it.
Whiskey storage is a problem. What you should do is get a tiny little shelf that only fits about 6 bottles, and then have people slag you off constantly for it.
With my dad not liking whiskey, he decided to do this. I don't know why, to be honest. He's never liked whiskey, but he decided that he would start collecting them because ever since I was 18, all my holidays have literally been dragging my dad to whiskey distilleries because he'll drive, which is fantastic. It means I can drink. And he'll always pick up a little bottle or a big bottle from every distillery we've ever visited. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to try and get a bookshelf like this and hopefully have enough room to fit all of them in.
It's a nice shelf. I like it's all like backlit and stuff, or there's like a mirror behind it. It's a decent display.
They were
pretty cool.
He was very focused on how to get it right.
Yeah, I see that. It's like got Pinterest all over it. I think it's what I'm going to aim for in my wee corner over here, actually.
I'm noticing new whiskies every single time as well when I'm looking at the back.
Like smoke and mirrors can only do so much, Kat. You need a bit more on that side of things.
I mean, like, if it's mirrored, it's going to look like I've got double the amount that I do. So I maybe just need mirrors. Maybe more smoke and mirrors, exactly what I need. I am up to 11 bottles now, David. I'm working my way up. Thanks for notice. Yeah. There's only so much. What were you saying?
What's the favorite whiskey you have?
I missed both of those things.
What's the favorite whiskey you have that you've got right now?
Oh my god!
Take the company hat off as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you know? Megan and Woody and Alex came into my other workplace the other day and gifted me a bottle of the Williamson. And I don't usually like sweet whiskey, but oh my god, like, see, that is like just drinking barbecued. It's like bacon frazzles, you know, the crisps. It's like bacon. I'm really enjoying that just now. Like, it changes every day. Like, it just depends. I've got so many sitting open because like I need to know what it tastes like, and then I'm happy for a while because I now know I really like that one, and then I can move on to the next one. So yeah,
Williamson, that Woodrow's Williamson is phenomenal. I didn't know he was up.
Yeah, they were up for the Whisky Festival.
Back.
2 weeks ago now. And then they came in for a little look around Glengarry. So yeah, they brought a little dram, which was nice. But yeah, it's really, really good. So I shared it with some folk at work. I don't have a lot of it, so I'm like sparingly working my way through. I'm a nice person. But yeah, enjoying that one. What about yourself, Calum? What's your favourite dram on the go just now?
It's actually, it's going to seem like I'm very biased because I used to work for them, but it's actually one that I quietly had in the background, which is this one, the Craigellachie 12.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
I think I messaged you, Mike, about this when I worked at Brown-Forman. I genuinely, Craigellachie is one of them distilleries that no matter what it is, I've been very lucky that I've got to try there's a 41-year-old aged in rum barrels, and it is the most stunning whiskey I think I've ever tried. It's like almost drinking pina colada. So I was very Craigellachie will always be a buy as soon as I see it. And this 12-year-old it's a little bit too easy drinking. I had to kind of stop myself from finishing the bottle of it to some extent because I would have finished it in one night.
When we were there with the academy, that rum cask came out. Was it 42, 41, 42?
41
years old.
Yeah,
41. And that it was Have you put your name down for the Coalescence 55-year-old that's just been announced?
The one of one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. As much as I think buying a new house and buying a 55-year-old whiskey would work really well.
It's on a par, right? It's
I could just not buy the house and I could buy the 55-year-old, and it probably has crossed my mind at points. I think I'll stick to the house, and I think my whiskey buying might just be only for the bar in the next couple of months.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they would let you take out a mortgage for a bottle of whiskey either.
Oh, I'm sure I can charm them enough to try and get it.
Just send them an email saying, "I want this."
That's how it works.
An email, you get what you want.
Well, I also have the problem of I know that I say I'm not going to buy any more whiskey, but I am going to a couple of distilleries when I'm on holiday in Loch Lomond. So Aberfeldy, Tullabarton, Deemston, Clydeside, and Glenturret. I cannot leave a distillery without a bottle in my hand, so it's already going to be enough.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, that's so good. I'm regaining track here. I'm just going off.
Just rearrange myself. Sorry.
It's gone completely out of my head. Cat's jigging away. She's giving me motion sickness.
Sorry. I'm so uncomfortable. It's ridiculous. But yeah.
But yeah, I love that Craigellachie new range, and the first time we kind of got the chance to showcase it was at New Deer Show, which is it's a little farmer show. I say little, it's quite big. It's about 10,000 people a day, I think, there. And the amount of people, so you've got Port Soy, which is the peated expression, which is the village next to Craigellachie. You've got the 12-year-old, and then you've got what most people would regard as Sand End. Never mentioned.
I didn't know it was not that. I had no idea.
Sinine.
Sinine, or I call it Sanine, but I do know that it is Sinine.
Sinine, yeah. So to read it, Sand End. Yeah. Absolutely. Why would you not think that? But no, Sinine. And we got and that was we've got a lad working with us, Davis, who came on the academy this year and is kind of picking up some knowledge. And the first thing I said to him when we started selling it was, "That is not Sand End." Because these people are local. Sinine. And just by knowing that, the amount of people who were warming to it and they're like, oh, you must be local and all that. Brilliant conversation. I think it's really important to put that effort in. And you must go through some amount of training linguistically, even though it's probably your home language. Like, how do I pronounce it? How do I get this right? Because there's always somebody willing to tell you how to pronounce it.
Well, I've also got the problem of I'm in the most difficult place to say in Scotland for anyone that's not Scottish. So I spend my day saying it's not Craigellachie, it's Craigellachie. So I've gotten to the point now when I'm happy that people call it Sandend, because I'm already having to tell them it's Glenglassa, not Glenglassock, or something like this. So I let them away with the Sandend.
I know there's a lot of there's a lot of the ones that people mispronounce are the ones that I don't think, well, to me as a Scottish person, look quite straight. Like Auchentoshan, I always think is quite a straightforward one, or like Lefroig for. But yeah, I mean, okay, Lefroig, maybe it's not that straightforward. Lefrog. But like, I guess it's just where you separate the words, like where you put the accent, isn't it? Like,
Well, Glenmorangie is the biggest one.
Yeah.
Even
Tom and Towel, though. Like Tom and Towel, people get wrong all the time.
Glenmoray.
Glenmoray, yeah.
That's the one I hear quite a lot as well. Glenfiddich. I hear quite a lot as well. Yeah. But there's some people that come in and I expect them to say everything wrong, and then they just nail it without even trying. It's you can always tell when a whiskey fan comes in because they'll say the exact thing. The other one I have quite a lot is Lechig.
Oh yeah. Is it Lechig? Is that how you pronounce it? Probably.
Lechig is how I've always pronounced it, presuming the D is a CH.
Okay.
Yeah, Lechig or Lechig. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not fun if it's not difficult.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to jump back to a question Dave asked. I don't think we picked up on it. So Dave Parkinson asked, what kind of clientele? I guess I'm going to add who do you get in the bar at the moment, and is it the people you're after? Is there are you trying to open yourself up to a new audience?
It's going to be maybe quite a boring answer, but the clientele I want is everyone. I want people that are new to whiskey. I want people that are experienced to whiskey. I just want to see everyone that wants to have a drink of whiskey come in. I love when I get to meet big whiskey fans that I can go, oh, have you ever tried this, and whip out something weird and unique. Like one of my favorite ones right now is the James Eady Glendullan aged in Malaga casks. Like I love whipping that out for big whiskey fans. But then I also love the people that just want to come and learn. One of my favorite things to do is we do tastings through the bar. So people come in and, they choose what they want, but I'll talk through all the whiskies with them. And it's a great way for people to learn if people are wanting to come in and maybe learn a little bit more about whiskey.
Do you like whiskey flights, like a set 3 or a set?
It's actually not whiskey flight. It's more that they come in, I'll have a conversation with them. I'll go, normally what I say is, do you want to do the 5 whiskey regions or do you want to do just Speyside? And, depending on what they say, I will actually just sit or stand with them. They'll sit at the bar and I'll just pour one at a time and we'll just talk about the distillery. We'll talk about, just general whiskey things. I'll maybe dissuade some of the whiskey myths that they've maybe heard before, maybe at some distilleries or something, and we'll just have a good chat, and it can kind of go whatever way they want. So it's a really fun thing to do.
So how do people book on for that? Is it they just have to go through the website, or is it
Yeah, so it's kind of, there's a couple of different ways. They can email the hotel, and then the hotel will pass the email on to me. They can phone the hotel. But even things like Simply Speyside, which is a tour company, it's Calum who does it. Like he'll book people to come to the Quaich and do whiskey tastings with me all the time.
Cool.
So yeah, it was actually someone I met at Glendronach, and then that connection.
Is that the guy who does?
Yeah, go on.
Is Simply Speyside? Is that the guy who canoes up the Spey?
I don't think that's Calum. going off what I know of Calum, I don't think he's a canoeman. He's very much like myself. He likes his cars and he likes being warm and not wet. But I mean, I can, if people
there's an innuendo in there somewhere.
If people just want to get in contact with me directly, I am more than happy to do whiskey tastings and have fun with it. I just don't ever get tired about talking about whiskey, so any excuse to do that is an excuse I'm always going to take.
That's cool. That sounds good fun.
So when you go to a whiskey bar, not your own, obviously, you go into the pot still, the Bonaccord, Ushka Bay, when the grill.
Mm-hmm.
What do you look for? Are you always looking for something new, or do you have a staple that you think, you know what, I'm just in the mood to have a drink and not have to think about it?
Well, I was actually in the grill not too long ago, about 2 weeks ago. I was up for my dad's birthday, and I spent far too much money in the grill because I was going for the Glenuries, I was going for the Locksides. I'm always that kind of person that wants to try the things that I cannot get or I've not seen before. I want to try the old distilleries, but then if I'm off, I'm going into the Highlander or the Quaich, and I'm just going to try the stuff that is a bit more unique. I don't normally have a go-to. I don't normally, if there's a Glenglassa behind the bar, I'll always try the Glenglassa, or if there's an Imperial, I'll always try the Imperial.
Oh, yeah.
But then normally I just kind of ask people what they're drinking or what the bartender recommends, and I'll just go for that. I always think it's a good excuse to say I'm working when I'm not really working. I'm drinking, but I'm always trying something new, trying to broaden my horizon.
Yeah, you've also got quite a wide palate, so if somebody recommends an Islay, you're not going to be put off, or if somebody recommends a Sherry Bomb or a Cask Strength, you're quite open to all styles.
I will drink whatever is put in front of me. I mean, some of my favourite drams are, I love Famous Grouse. I love Dewar's White Label. I think they're fantastic and they're nice, easy sit-down whiskies. Copper Dog, again, which is our own one, is such a nice, easy drinking whiskey. Yeah. So I'll pretty much if someone puts it down in front of me, I will drink it.
You mentioned White Horse there. I was in the bar in Rhodes on Saturday, I think it was. No, but it was Friday because it was after the night before the football lineup. And I saw their whiskey list. They took out a menu, and the menu was about that thick of drinks. A lot of it was cocktails, a lot of it was kind of different beers and whatnot. They had a whiskey menu, and I was fairly impressed, and some very reasonable prices in there. But they had the White Horse, and they had the Old Hague, and they had some Dimples. I was like, actually, you know what? I found it was like €8, so like £6, $6.50 a net. I'm going to crack into some of the old stuff. So I went up and had a look at the shelf, and I've got a photo of it. I'll send it on. I put a post up on one of the whiskey pages. There was cobwebs in between the bottles of this whiskey, and I was right. I'm going to dust off some of these cobwebs. So I had a Dimple 15, I had a Hague, and I had what was the other one? They had a famous grouse spiced up there.
Oh, never
which
heard of that.
was just the most bizarre tasting thing I've ever experienced. But yeah, so that was the three, and it made them have to climb up and get rid of those cobwebs from the shelf. And all three of them were very, very good whiskies.
That's one of my favorite things when I walked into the Quaich the first time was we actually have some like old releases inside of the distilleries that are still open. Like we have a Deanston Mill, which is like the 1990s version of Deanston. We've got the old bottlings of Lecce when it was white labels and everything. We've got a 1990s Loch Lomond. We've got a Glenflagler, which was the old Moffat distillery in Airdrie, which is such a facet. So Glenflagler was named because the person that owned Airdrie, the Airdrie distillery, the Moffat distillery, was from Flagler Lane in Miami. So they decided to call the whiskey Glenflagler. not like it's also mad enough that it's Moffat Distillery and Airdrie because it should be in Moffat, but it's one of them fascinating story whiskies.
Imagine tell them that to the tourists coming in. So where do you get that? It's the Valley of the Miami Lane.
But it's one of them ones that they buy into. It's such a fascinating story for the whiskey.
That's pretty cool. I've not heard of that one before.
No.
Oh, you need to come and see it. It's an old 60s, 70s bottling of Glenflagler. You need to come and have at least a good smell of it.
Yeah.
We've got some really weird stuff. I've got a 1939 Linkwood distillation, which is just stunning. We've got Glenurry, Milburn, all these kind of old distilleries that time's forgotten about.
It's like an archive. Do you actually have it recorded? Just for the the bars kind of historical archive. You're a history geek. I'm a bit of a history geek. I'd want that written down somewhere of what we had and what it was like for when it's finished.
I don't, but what I do, one of my favorite things to do, and I'm kind of not sure I should tell this because it's going to give up my secrets. But when I was at Whiskey Hammer, what I learned was that people don't put value in miniatures. And you can get some absolutely fantastic closed distillery miniatures for absolutely nothing. So what I used to do was that, and I keep all of them. So what I'm doing when the bar will finish with, say, a Glenflagler or a Milburn or something, I'm actually going to personally keep it. And it's going to go into my own collection of, even though the liquid's done, there's this story that still remains that's going to emanate throughout history. And it's just because it's gone, it's not forgotten, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. You've got the old bottle styles, you've got the old branding, you've got the old labels. That's part of our social history. It's so cool to keep hold of that.
Yeah, and
I personally know a lot of people who kind of buy collections of miniatures, and they'll buy the whole collection of, 100, 200 miniatures because there's maybe 2 or 3, maybe Macallan or, these slightly sought after the old G&M distillery labels kind of miniatures in there. And the rest of them, they don't care about. So they're the ones they'll put away.
Which is where I'll come in and I'll buy them because every distillery has every distillery has a wonderful story behind it. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite ones to tell, which I always tell when I used to do tours at Glendronach, which I really shouldn't have, but it doesn't matter now, was Banff Distillery. Banff was this fantastic distillery. You've probably heard this, both of you, but Banff was the most unlucky distillery in Scotland because it had 5 separate fires, and in 1942 it was bombed by the Luftwaffe, which blew up one of the warehouses, and the whiskey ran free from the distillery and into the local Devrin, which people were taking water from at the time, and they got a lovely surprise. But more importantly, there was a bunch of cows in the field next to them, and it's written down somewhere that the farmer couldn't milk them for a week after because the cows were tumbling all over the place.
Which is too drunk.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing you want when you're looking at a distillery and you're wanting to pick up something. You want to pick up something that's got this meaning to it. It's got this fantastic, wonderful, unique story behind it. And, sometimes I feel like we're losing that in Scotland with some of the distilleries, but then every now and again you'll get an Ardnamurchan, a Nickneen, Portachunin, all these distilleries that will just pop out of nowhere and will come with these fantastic stories.
Yeah. Like the Lindors and...
Lindors genuinely just has a special place in my heart. I always get asked, what's the oldest distillery in Scotland? And just because I like to stir the pot slightly, I always say it's Lindors is the oldest distillery in Scotland. Because it was born in 1494, and that's the oldest one. But I always then joke around with Glenturret as well, because Glenturret, I suppose, is the oldest by records.
Was it the oldest continuous distillery in that they've never... I think.
Because there's also Kelty Pans, and I don't know when Kelty Pans was on the go. And there's also Little Mill, of course, as well, which is always a distillery I found fascinating. because of the Loman stills and this whole new technology that was brought in by someone from New York to try and make whiskey production easier.
I can just tell Kat is dying to get in here on the oldest.
No, I'm actually dying because I'm so uncomfortable in this stupid wicker chair. I'm like slowly like falling off of it. No, I'm definitely not going to lay claim to being the oldest in Scotland, and we know for a fact we're not. But like, you know what?
But then I claimed that Glendronach was the oldest in Scotland when I worked for them. You know,
oh, bullshit. We're definitely older than you guys.
I'm not having that. You know, they say 1826, but it definitely is at 1826 Glendronach was founded.
I think I'm just going to sit back here and let the war commence.
We've got 100 years. We've got not 100 years now. We're definitely older than that. Definitely.
Well, actually, I was looking at my Glengiddys yesterday actually because I was doing just a bit of a bar stock take-in, just seeing what I had so I could update our till. And I was looking, and I actually have some really interesting Glengiddys. I've got a Glengiddy, I think it's a 10 or 11-year-old from Murray McDavid, aged in
the Tokai
cask, which is a stunning whiskey. But then I've also got one from the Whiskey Shop. It's a single cask, and I cannot find it online for love nor money, so I don't know how much to charge for it because it's not on my till. So I'm just going to have to make up a number, I think.
What is it? Is it in like I was going to say, isn't it a brown cardboard box? All Glengiddy's in a brown cardboard box.
It's in a Glengiddy bottle. It's a 1978 Glengiddy.
Ooh.
When was it bottled?
I can actually tell you because I have my phone right next to me, and I was taking pictures of it to see if I could Google it to find it. It is. It was bottled in 2011, the 1st of the 12th, 2011. I don't know if you can see it there, but there you go.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And it was for the Whiskey Shop because I was going through our archive of bottles up in our little tasting bothy, and I think I maybe have one of those up there, but I didn't look to see how old it was actually. But that's interesting. It's
these things I randomly find. You know, I'll be looking through the bar stock, and I'll just randomly find this very interesting bottle that is not on the till, so I don't think it's been drunk in a long time, but it's something that I would love to be able to shout more about. You could definitely shout about Glengarry as much as you like. I fully endorse that. Not to get very nerdy about Glengarry, but honestly, I love what's been happening with the distillery in the last couple of years. I was lucky enough, just before COVID, when you would open on New Year's Day, I got to come and bottle a Glengarry. The 2009 Oloroso. Yeah, it is somewhere behind me, but I don't know exactly what it is behind me. But yeah, Mike opened that cask.
Yeah. First person in. Yeah, I was the first person in, but I was closest to Kat when she picked up the hammer.
Yeah, you got to open the cask. Yeah.
I got bottle number 20 of that as well. So
Did
you? Bottle 20 of 2020.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's
sadly.
Yeah, I mean, Glengarry's just the problem is I could wax lyrical about every single distillery in Scotland because they're all this fantastic stuff. But you know, being an Aberdonian and Glengarry being the nearest distillery kind of to us, or used to be nearest to us, there is just something special about that place. There is, and if you are doing the take a drink for every Glengarry mention, good luck.
I was just noticing Rick's on the ball.
Rick, I hope you're okay.
So I not mention Glengarry.
So
no,
we have this email that I send out to the wrong address every week. We need to explain to our guests that Glengarry gets mentioned quite a lot.
Not by me.
We always blame Kat for it because she obviously works there as well. She says it's not. But yeah, so we decided to put in a rule that anytime Glengarry was mentioned, we had to have a drink. So I don't know how many it is, but we'll say Slange and we'll have a wee drink for
Slange.
I'll do a fake one.
Everyone else who's diehards to the game will be staunch
Well,
Hashtag
I'm now going to be proper diehard to it. Every time we mention that distillery in the Northeast, I will.
it's a quality distillery.
Because I thought just take a drink to ease the tension between you two the first time, and then he said take another drink. I said, hold on a second.
We've forgotten.
Falling into that trap.
There's. I'm happy that Glenkeany's older than Glendronach.
So much older. Like just take a seat.
1798 is it?
It's 1797 is the official date, but we've been there since 1785. We know we've been there as early as. I've got enough battery to move. I'm so uncomfortable. I'm going to go back to where I was. Oh, that's better.
It's a shame it's not the closest distillery to Aberdeen. I suppose probably Lone Wolf or Burnabenny's now taking that crown, I suppose.
Well, currently they still are, because none of those two have their own malt out yet.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, as you said, they don't have their own malt. I actually do have grain whiskey, however, from Burnabenny.
The 4-year-old, the Christmas malt.
Which is, I've got like 5 bottles of it. I could drink that every day of the week. I almost brought it down to have tonight. Like every other whiskey I've got, I was nearly bringing it down, but it's just a lovely, lovely whiskey.
Mike and the team are doing such a good, for the setup they've got. They're doing such a good spirit. I'm not afraid to mix it up. They've been doing kind of chocolate rye, chocolate malt, and all that. Yeah,
which is what I love. If a distillery's willing to throw the whiskey book at it or throw the whiskey book out, I love it. Like one of my most expensive purchases ever was the Glenmurray cider cask, because it's never going to be done again. Unfortunately, it can't be done again. But it's just such a fantastic story behind it.
They just need to put a different name on it and call it an orchard release or something.
Yeah, the orchard.
Orchard by any chance.
I don't know. I mean, maybe that's been played before.
I'm so obsessed with everything experimental from Glenfiddich as well, though. Like, I get a lot of people that come in and say that they don't like the IPA, but I genuinely really like the IPA.
I like the IPA.
The only one I've never tried is the Winter Storm.
Oh, I want to try the Snow Phoenix. It's a Snow Phoenix, isn't it? That when they shed, the warehouse collapsed. Because I think that's the most beautiful marketing. I just wish I'd had that. It's the most beautiful marketing idea ever.
I've touched a lot of bottles of it, and I've seen a lot of bottles of it, but unfortunately that was at Whisky Hammer when I couldn't drink it.
Oh, yeah. So
I tried it.
Your first venture into whiskey.
So what happened was you
sent them an email and they gave you a job.
Not as simple as that, but near enough. So when I was doing my degree in my 3rd year, I got the opportunity to go to Islay.
What did you do your degree in?
International Hospitality Management.
Wow.
At RGU in Aberdeen. So in my 2nd year, I went to Brussels and I learned all about the beer culture in Brussels. And ever since, I've had a love of Timmermans. Timmermans Peth, which is the peach beer, is just stunningly good. But in my 3rd year, I got to go to I went to Islay to work at the Macri. And about 3 months into working at the Macri, I said, I never want to work in a hotel again. I hate hotels. I'm going to quit my course. And I quit my course and I moved back to Aberdeen. And I had 2 job interviews at the time. I had the Whiskey Castle in Dornoch and I had Whisky Hammer. And I went to the Dornoch Castle one first, and they actually offered me a trial shift to see if I wanted to become the bar manager. And stupidly enough, I said no, because I didn't want to live in Dornoch. And I kick myself every day. So I decided to take the Whisky Hammer job. And that was kind of my first foray into working in whiskey predominantly. Working in cask was kind of working in whiskey, but this is my actual first whiskey job. And it was just unfortunate that it was just when COVID hit, and I was there for 9 months, and then COVID hit, and unfortunately I was out of a job. So I was just very lucky Rassi came along at the same time, or a year after or so.
I don't think that's luck. That's just proactivity of you just saying, "Give me a job." Like that's.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually my ex that I have to kind of thank for it, because she gave me the Rassi tasting kit for my birthday.
I love that.
So without her, I probably would have never worked for Rassi, and I probably wouldn't have kind of continued my whiskey journey.
Oh, because, I'm sure you would have done. You definitely would have done. I'm sure of it. I
know a lot of people. I was listening to your last Blether with Mark when I was actually in the bar last night. I was sitting listening, and Mark said something about falling into whiskey, and a lot of people fall into whiskey. I'm the opposite. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I was targeting whiskey with an absolute passion for it to try and get in. And I was just very lucky Rassi decided to kind of give me the opportunity.
I think it's more than luck. They obviously saw something in you that they appreciated. And Mark Thompson might be the easiest person to listen to in the world.
Oh, yeah. Honestly. Him and Billy Walker and Jim McEwen, even like Dennis Malcolm, they're such great people to look up to and follow their lead. You just know exactly kind of by God-given right how to do things. It's incredible.
Natural storytelling ability as well. It's just something that maybe not everybody has, just that able to like captivate somebody and like just kind of, I don't know, just get across a message or a story. It's just, nice and amazing. He's like runs up mountains constantly. Like,
oh, I'm not doing that.
Have a sit down. Yeah, you would definitely.
When you're mentioning that, both of you've got. Sorry.
Go on. No, go for it. Go for it. We're waiting. We're like, what are you going to wait? Go for it.
Yeah, I was just. I think I had a wee lag there, so it was a bit of catching up. But I was saying when you're talking natural storytelling ability, both of you kind of being under Rachel Barry's brands, the way she describes her whiskey is just.
See, like when you read her tasting notes, like it's like you've fallen into some sort of like Tolkien novel, and you just everything's described so beautifully. You just agree with everything she says. You're like, yes, take my money. Like it's so good at it. So good at it.
Not even for the whiskey, just to hear about the whiskey. I will pay you to tell me about this whiskey. I don't even have to drink it.
Yeah, I should do a podcast of just like reading it out at night time before bed, like a sort of like a sleep.
Yes, well, I actually thought I'd stuck my foot in it with Rachel once, because just before I left Glendronach with the Glenglassaugh launch, she was up at the distillery, and me being me, I just kind of went, oh, so what do you think of Billy Walker, and what is Billy Walker's impact? And I had my friend TJ, who was beside me, kind of gave me a look going like, what have you asked her? And her being just so fantastic, gave such an eloquent answer to it, and about her love with Billy and how they always speak to each other. And it was just this thing of where I always think I stick my foot in it, but actually... Rachel's some of them people.
Yeah. And I think most of these guys, they meet at festivals, they meet at dinners, they meet at presentations and all that. And it's almost, there's a little bit, probably more brand ambassador than blender, but like a football premiership merry-go-round where somebody gets a job somewhere else, then they have to fill the books. So they look, if somebody gets headhunted, I believe Rachel was headhunted for Brown Foreman off of Beam Centauri. So, and it's a testament to her that she's slotted in at a time when there was a lot of pressure on all three. Billy is a bit of a magician, and it's always big shoes to fill, but she's done fantastic. Bearing in mind the pressures of COVID and external price increases and internal price increases and all that, the liquid still holds its own across all three brands. I think she's done a fantastic job.
Well, actually, my favourite Benriach, apart from this 20-year-old, which holds sentimental value, my favourite Benriachs are the malting seasons. I just absolutely love malting season. Rachel's knocked it out of the park 10 times over with them. You know, the three of them are just three absolutely fantastic whiskies. And actually, one of my favorite Glenglasses is this 12-year-old. So, and when I was at Glendronach, the new 15 I preferred over the old 15. So I've always been a massive Rachel fan.
I think she's really good at understanding like the heart of a distillery and then creating the brand round about it in a way that makes sense. Like, yeah, because each one of those three are so different, but it's like so unique to like their own story, and she just gets it and explains it so well.
Glass is such a spirit. It's blinders have tried to tame it and they just can't. They can't do anything with it, no matter how hard they try. Mm-hmm. It needs to be left to run its own course, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, what all the master blenders are doing. I mean, there's not a bad whiskey in Scotland. That's always my line. You know, it's just the ones you prefer and the ones you don't prefer.
Yeah, that's a good description.
If a whiskey was crap, then the distillery would last long because nobody would buy it. Every whiskey is good to somebody, and if that somebody is enough of a population to buy it, then it's going to continue. So yeah, absolutely. I'm going to run back a little bit, probably more than I intended to, but Rick asked a question. It's a technical. I'm not sure if it's a technical question, but this is something probably you have to deal with more than us as a shop. How do you prevent, or do you do anything to prevent oxidization when you've got bottles in the shop that don't get opened very often? So some of your older bottles might be running down.
Yeah. So I actually had a problem with this yesterday. So I had a lovely Craigellachie 10-year-old from Provenance, which I think is Douglas Lang, if I'm not mistaken. So it'd been open for a very long time. It was an very old bottling of Douglas Lang, and there was basically less than a dram in it. That's why I looked at it. And the problem is at the bar, there's nothing I really can do because the bottle has to sit open. I can't keep it hidden away, because then people aren't going to go for it. Yeah. What I can do in my capacity is, you know, if I feel a bottle is getting to a point, because I constantly check them, I'm constantly smelling them. I don't taste them, but I smell them. If I feel like there's something going wrong there, I just don't sell it. I would much rather that people got a dram that's perfect for them than something that has been oxidized far too much. If I feel like a whiskey's going that way, I will suggest it more than I normally would to people. But yeah, there's no real trick to it. The only trick that I have, which I don't think many people do, is when you've got a bottle of whiskey open, every year just turn it over for a couple of seconds and then turn it back around and put it back on a shelf, because otherwise you're going to dry out the cork and then you're going to have a corked whiskey at the end of the night. Yeah.
That's the one thing we recommend to people for single casks. If they're coming into the distillery to buy a single cask, we always say at least once a year rehydrate the cork, because you do hear stories people going up to their loft, and, you know, like empty bottles because the cork's cracked and it's all leaked out. It's heartbreaking. So yeah, good tip, guys that are watching. Keep your cork wet, all right, guys?
Yeah. Because I've had many a bottle, I've gone to open it and the cork is broken right off. And in front of a customer, it's not the greatest look in the world, because then you're having to take out your waiter's friend and trying to corkscrew it and everything. Yeah. So no, keep your bottles hydrated. But on the oxidization, there's nothing I do when it comes to the older bottles. It's just a process that's going to happen, unfortunately.
Yeah. I guess I don't know if you can do it in a bar for trade standards or anything, but could you decant into a smaller bottle and have it?
That is something I've thought about doing, and I do have 50 cl bottles. The only problem is I would need to get them labelled up with everything.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It would be an issue.
But at home, if a bottle doesn't last longer than a year by itself anyway, so that's not an issue. But yeah, I do have 50 cl bottles, and I have like 20 cl bottles just on the off chance.
Yeah.
I guess once it's decanted into a smaller bottle, like a lot of the impact is like at the label on the brand, isn't it? So I guess you've got like just, you know, uniform small bottles with printed out labels. It hasn't got that same appeal, does it?
especially because some of the older stuff I've got are things like the rare malts, and the rare malts are just such beautiful bottles that you don't really want to take them out of that packaging.
Could you have a scenario where you get to the last 100 mils or something, you decant it, have it labelled, have the bottle set, because I've been in the Quaich Bar, it's got a lovely display, lovely gantry. Just have the bottle in front of it with the liquid, but have the original one behind it. And then it's a case of explaining to people, this is why, to preserve the quality of the whiskey, this is why it's in this bottle.
Actually, that's an idea that I've not thought about, and is actually a fantastic idea, and is something that is definitely going to get stolen and used in the near future.
Absolutely, yeah.
To be honest. Because
what we do when we get to the last dram, because we've got the tasting room up the stairs.
Yeah, of course.
We've got about 600 bottles open up there. If we get to the last dram, we pour it into a sample. We make up mystery sets, so it's easy for us to not get rid of it, but to sell that on and do that kind of thing. But for a bar, you need people coming in and thinking, I want to buy that. And if somebody sees a bottle like that, as a whiskey drinker, I'm automatically thinking, how long has that been there?
Yeah.
You know, how long has it been oxidized? And am I spending 50, 60, 100 quid on a nip that's going to be oxidized? Whereas you could, I don't know what level you would start doing that at. 500 is probably too big. Is 100, something to think about. But yeah,
it's definitely something that actually, because I walked into a bar with some drams that are nearly finished. That unfortunately I can't really speak to the previous bar managers to find out how old the dram has been there. So all I can do is kind of the sniff test for them. One of the ideas that I had right at the start is, like yourselves, doing an infinity bottling of the stuff that's nearly done. I then realised that I could get to try the last little dribbles of everything that's in the bottle, and that idea went pretty quickly when I was like, "Oh, actually, I'm going to try them instead," because it gives me a chance to try things that I normally would never get to try, and it gives me a chance to be able to talk about the whiskies. So every now and again, there's a little straw that comes out, and I do the wee little straw technique of trying a little dram of it. But maybe the 50 cl is something I might look at in the future.
Yeah, I think it does just hold that, and then you've got a legitimate excuse. But no, it's not an excuse at all. It's a reason for preserving that quality, and then if you've got a 50 or 100 ml bottle sitting there, somebody might just say, "Well, actually, give me the bottle." So instead of having a nip of it, they might buy the bottle. You can upsell it.
I've actually had people buy bottles as well, which always shocks me. When someone bought a full bottle of the Quaich at 28 drams in a bottle, and I was very shocked at that.
Yeah, we've got Woody joining us. He was Woody. We talked about earlier on. Both Calum and Kat were raving about your whiskies.
Williamson, nice to see you.
Thank you for joining us.
What's argon gas? What is that?
So argon gas, if I remember right, it's you can pierce the cork, blow gas into the bottle.
Like seals it, kind of.
Yeah, I think it's a technique used in wine.
Ah, okay.
From my understanding, it's mostly used in wine. The issue that comes with whiskey is that I'm constantly opening the bottles, because even though people aren't necessarily buying the bottles, I always get asked if I can smell the bottle. Can I have, so right in the middle of my kind of display at the Quaich, right beside where I stand, is a bottle of 1971 Dallas Dew, 50-year-old Dallas Dew. And I always get asked, what's the most expensive? And it's one of the most expensive. So people are constantly smelling it to try and, realize why people are paying £595 for a nip. So it is these things where for me personally, it just doesn't work. But if you've got a collection at home and it's something you're not going to drink, you should really, have a look at something like that.
That's cool. So Rick's given us an explanation of what it is. So it's heavier than oxygen. So it sits at the top of the whiskey and prevents oxygen from touching the spirit. That's cool. Did not know that, Rick.
Yeah. I think, I get, but from a bar point of view, I don't think it's any use because, the cork's always coming off.
Yeah.
So unless you've got a hell of a lot and you're refilling it every time, great for collectors, great for preventing evaporation from leaking, or like kind of natural evaporation, I guess. But behind the bar, it's what you say, Calum, is just try and sell it as quick as you can.
The other issue is, as much as I love the corks, a lot of distilleries, especially in the olden times, use screw tops.
I could tell you an interesting fact about corks.
Go for it.
Is this the tea cork?
So Ardmore Distillery, we are fans. The Teacher's family. So the actual pull-out cork that we have nowadays comes from the Teacher's family. So it was William Teacher Senior's grandson. He invented because like all whiskey used to have like a wine cork, and now that cork we have now comes from Teacher's family. We're just the gift to keep giving. So there you go.
Teacher's the most important family in whiskey.
Yes, exactly. So
they teach us it all.
they teach. They
Oh, that's so bad.
I was going to say taught. I was going to use grammar, but the pun wouldn't have worked. See, now I'm a dad, and now I'm old. I can use old man.
Oh
and
yeah, you go for the dad joke, of course.
They teach us all. I'm pretty sure that's probably going to be their next hashtag on all their marketing. They teach us all.
I'm not. Teachers still sold. I've not seen Teachers in a very long time.
Do you know what's funny? Because like it used to be the brand that everybody used to drink, wasn't it? Teachers Highland Cream, and then but most of it goes out to India. It's like one of the biggest brands in India. It's massive.
Okay.
Oh, hi Megan. Nice to see you. But yeah, go head out to India and you'll find loads of teachers. Because we were speaking to Chilton just before we ended the summer, and he was just talking about how big it was out there as well. But most interesting.
Ollie.
Mm-hmm.
To Oliver. Chilton.
No, sorry, no. What was he called? I just made up a name. Who were we speaking to before the holidays? Before we finished for summer?
Chilton, yeah.
I didn't make up a name. I didn't make up a name.
I just thought Oliver Chilton.
Oh no. No, I wasn't. No, we weren't speaking to him. Yeah, I just like gangster and giving people our last names.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, check you hip little bastard.
It's like public school boys, just like you all call each other by their last names.
Chilton, over here, please.
Fucker.
yeah, Chilton.
Yeah, anyway, there's your cork fact for the day. Other distilleries are available.
Guys,
I know. I think we've like a 2-hour mark. We've like kept you all night, Calum.
We've blitzed 2 hours very, very quickly. And
I mean, it doesn't feel like 2 hours at all.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. We can just keep talking all night. And Dave's saying that he wants to come to Craigellachie just because of you.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to meet him. I'd love to have him at the Craigellachie. As I said, I love everyone to come.
I'm going to jump back half an hour, so 40 minutes almost. And Dave did say, and I didn't read it out, but he did say he was disappointed in his last visit in 19. He did stay in 17, 18, and 19 for the space side, but now, having had a chat with you, he wants to come back and stay and meet you and have a wee drab. So Dave was one of our Whisky Academy attendees. He's a great guy. And not only did he learn a lot about whiskey on the Academy, but he also learned how to cook for the first time. as well. So yeah, he's a customer of the shop, and a big fan of whiskey. Not long had his birthday either, so
Yeah, I was going to say,
Happy
especially.
birthday, Dave.
present. So I mean, he's a lot older than me. I mean, he must be, I don't know, he must be about 90 or something like that.
I need to say you're a lot older than me, Mike.
I'm a lot older than a lot of people. So,
well, I hope Dave does come back to the Craig because, yeah, it would be lovely. Meet him again. Did I meet him at Glendronach? I think probably.
Oh, I'm sure he was.
No, he was this in September. He'll have been up to Glendronach.
Yeah, I'm sure.
He's a handful fan. He likes to do the old handfuls for his birthdays and things like that.
Well, I do have some handfills open behind the bar. Not Glendronach, but I do have the Craigellachie Valpolicella open right now. And I've also got the lovely Glenlivet 15-year-old handfill open right now behind the bar.
I'm sure Dave will be over for that. I think Dave's a bit of a Craigellachie fan too. I'm sure you got one for your birthday, did you not?
Yeah, he's got his bus pass for his birthday, especially.
I've also got the lovely Panama Rum exclusive, UK exclusive, or distillery exclusive from Craigellachie open behind the bar right now.
Oh, how is that? I haven't tried that one.
Oh, stunning. It's just anything that Billy touches turns into whiskey gold. That's the issue with Craigellachie, because you want to buy everything, and it's just kind of gets to a point where you just can't.
Yeah, I spent I just spent a lot of time chasing Craigellachie handfills, going up and buying, and I just had to stop because I had so many. Going back to the previous conversation, I had so many with about that much left in the bottle that I hate emptying a bottle that I know I'm never going to get again. And I just had this fear of it, so I just had to stop. Like, no, I'm going to make sure I finish all these guys first. So yeah.
I get that behind the bar. I mean, I've only got probably a dram left in my bottle of Rassi for behind the bar, and I don't want to get rid of it because I like talking about Rassi so much.
Yeah,
I do know I can go and buy another one. It's just the problem of even behind the bar, sometimes I won't suggest something because I want it to stay there so I can talk about it a little bit longer.
You're not. So somebody comes in and goes, "What about that Rassi?" You're like, "No."
Electric's also lovely.
Have
you ever tried
Brilliant. Calum, it's been absolutely fantastic chatting, and we could chat all night. But I think we want to keep people. Yeah, once you're more like into the job, you got your teeth right in. I know you're quite. How long have you been? 8 weeks? Did you say?
7-8 weeks now. Yeah.
I'd love to come back and chat to you. Maybe do a wee live Blether from the Quaich Bar itself.
Well, yeah, when you've got your new Craigellachie exclusive release as well, like your big secrets. So
yeah, we'll all wear the t-shirts.
And the duck t-shirts. Yeah, we'll model your duck t-shirts for you.
Yeah, we'll do a little photo shoot. I mean, I get a bunch of distilleries wanting to do photo shoots in the bar, so I'm sure we could sort something.
Absolutely.
Yes, count us
in. So thank you guys, thank you everyone for listening to us talking a lot of sense and keeping on topic quite a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's been good.
Always love having you guys watching us. Great questions in there as well. And if you're watching retrospectively, please feel free to throw in any questions, and we will try and get Calum's answers on that. I'd just like to say thank you again for joining us. Kat, do we have next week's guest?
We do. Next week we have got Ross Barr, who was the Balmoral and is now part of the new Bevy app, which is a whiskey app. Do you know Ross?
Ross is a good friend. Ross is someone I speak to actually quite a lot.
No way. Oh, that's cool. So Ross is going to tell us all about this new app, which I was looking into today. It sounds absolutely amazing. So you can input information about your favorite whiskies, and gradually it'll learn about the whiskey you like, and it'll recommend whiskies. It sounds really exciting. So we're going to get him to explain a bit more about that next week.
Well, you can ask. So I messaged Ross when I knew he was leaving the Balmoral. I asked him what he was going to do, and he never replied to me. So
there you go. You heard it here first. That's what he's doing now.
Calum, you have to join at 6:59 next week, and your first question is, why the hell did you not reply to me?
I saw my phone light up there for a minute. I thought it would be Ross messaging me. So don't say that.
Let's stir the pot early.
Oh no! Well, I'm off next Thursday, so I will be here at 6:59 in the comments.
Brilliant. Oh, that's fantastic. We've already got a story to go on.
It's gonna be fun.
Please stay on, and we'll say goodbye to you properly. But guys at home, thank you again for joining us. We always love having your input, and we'll see you again hopefully next week. If not, in the shop or wherever we may meet up. Thank you, Calum. Thanks, Kat. Thank you guys at home. Slange you
Thanks,
up.
everyone.
Yes,
Slange.
good night.